Mariana wiped rain from her face, trying to summon a laugh that didn't come. Professor Hale, Mariah, I mean. The boss. It's gone. Again. Her words tumbled out, laced with the exhaustion of a 22-year-old scraping by on scholarships and side gigs in a city that felt as foreign as it was intoxicating. Seville had been her escape from the stifling suburbs of Sacramento, a study-abroad program promising reinvention amid flamenco rhythms and Moorish arches, but lately, it just amplified her isolation. Her parents' divorce letters still burned in her inbox, unanswered, and the weight of it all made every delay feel like destiny's cruel joke. Mariah tilted her head, rain pattering against the umbrella like impatient fingers. At 35, she carried the poise of someone who'd crossed oceans and heartaches alike. Born in Boston to a family of academics, she traded Ivy League tenure tracks for the sun-baked allure of Spain 5 years ago, after a breakup that left her questioning every narrative she'd ever taught. Her rental car, a battered Fiat that smelled faintly of books and espresso, idled nearby. "Get in," she said simply, nodding toward it. "I'll drop you at your flat in Cadiz. It's not out of my way." Mariana hesitated, the chivalrous offer clashing with the boundaries she'd memorized in orientation. Professors were allies in essays, not saviors in storms. But the rain intensified, drumming a relentless tattoo, and the alternative was a 2-hour hitchhike through the dark. "You sure? I don't want to impose." Her voice was small, but her eyes, hazel flecked with gold, held Mariah's gaze a beat too long, stirring something unspoken in the older woman's chest. "Impose? On a Friday night drive through the Sierras? Please. Besides, we've got Austin to dissect if you bore of the scenery." Mariah's tone was light, but her eyes softened, remembering the way Mariana's hand had lingered on a worn copy of Pride and Prejudice during office hours last week, her fingers tracing the spine as if it held secrets to her own guarded heart. The car door clicked open, and Mariana slid into the passenger seat, the leather cool against her damp jeans. As Mariah pulled onto the winding road toward the coast, the city lights of Seville blurred into streaks of amber and red, giving way to the rugged outlines of olive groves and cork oaks under a sky finally clearing to stars. The radio hummed low, some indie folk station crooning about lost highways, and Mariana found herself exhaling for the first time in hours. "So," Mariah ventured after a mile of companionable silence, her hands steady on the wheel, "what's got you missing buses? Thesis woes? Or is it that roommate of yours playing her guitar at 3 a.m. again?" She glanced sideways, catching the way Mariana's lips quirked in a reluctant smile. Mariana leaned back, the tension in her shoulders easing like a knot finally giving way. "A bit of both. And home stuff. My mom's emails keep piling up. Dad's moving to Reno with his new girlfriend. It's like, who even am I in all this?" The confession slipped out unbidden, raw as the rain still beating on the windshield. She hadn't meant to unload on her professor, the woman who dissected vulnerability in Bronte with surgical precision, but there was something disarming about Mariah in the half-light, the faint laugh lines around her eyes, the silver thread in her auburn ponytail catching the dashboard glow. Mariah nodded, her expression thoughtful, not pitying. "Family's a plot twist no one sees coming. Mine shipped me off to boarding school at 12, for the best education, they said. Left me piecing together my own happily ever after from library books." She paused, the words hanging like mist over the road. "But you're here, Mariana. In Spain. Chasing your own story. That's braver than most." The compliment landed soft, warming Mariana from the inside out. She turned to watch Mariah's profile, the way her jaw set against the wind whipping through the cracked window. In class, Professor Hale was a force, pacing the lecture hall in tailored blazers, unraveling the threads of queer subtext in modernist lit with a passion that made Mariana's pulse quicken. But here, stripped of podium and pretense, she was just Mariah, human, a little weary, infinitely compelling. As they crested a hill, the Atlantic came into view, a vast, indigo expanse under the moon, foam-capped waves whispering against the cliffs of Tarifa. Cadiz lay ahead, its whitewashed buildings huddled like secrets against the shore. Pull over. Mariana asked impulsively, pointing to a lookout where wildflowers nodded in the breeze. Just for a minute. The view. It's like something out of a poem. Mariah obliged, killing the engine. They stepped out into the salt-laced air, the night's chill nipping at their skin. Mariana leaned on the guardrail, her dark waves tousled by the wind, and felt the world's edges soften. Thank you, she said quietly, turning to Mariah. For the ride. For listening. Mariah stood close, too close, perhaps, her green eyes reflecting the sea's shimmer. Anytime. Though if I start quoting Dickinson at you, run. But she didn't move away, and in that suspended moment, with the ocean's roar as their only witness, Mariana wondered if the evening's detours were leading somewhere neither of them could map. The drive resumed, but the air in the car had shifted, charged with the electricity of half-spoken truths. They talked then, really talked, about everything and nothing, the ache of displacement, the thrill of forbidden glances in crowded cafes, the way literature lied about love being tidy. Mariana shared how she'd first realized her feelings for women during a high school production of The Children's Hour, the stage lights blurring into a revelation that terrified her conservative family. Mariah listened, her responses measured but laced with empathy, hinting at her own path, a Boston girl who came out in the 90s, when pride parades were protests, not parties. By the time they reached Mariana's narrow street in Cadiz, lined with bougainvillea-draped balconies and the distant strum of a guitar, the clock neared midnight. The Fiat purred to a stop outside her weathered door, and Mariana lingered, reluctant to shatter the bubble. Coffee sometime. Not as professor and student. Just us. Mariah's smile was bittersweet, her fingers drumming the wheel. I'd like that. Text me. She watched as Mariana vanished into the lamplight, the door clicking shut like a chapter's end. But as she drove back toward her solitary villa in the hills, the echo of that invitation lingered, a quiet rebellion against the solitude she'd built like armor. Over the next weeks, their coffee became a ritual, stolen afternoons in hidden patios, where espresso cups clinked like conspiracies and conversations deepened into confessions. Mariana, with her easy laugh and fierce opinions, cracked open Mariah's guarded world. They wandered the Alcazar gardens, debating the erotic undercurrents in Lorca's gypsy ballads, shared paella under starlit skies, Mariana's foot brushing Mariah's under the table in accidental on-purpose touches. For Mariana, it was awakening, a love that felt like sunlight after endless rain, uncomplicated and all-consuming. For Mariah, it was riskier, a reminder of the woman she'd buried after Elena, her ex-fiancé, left her for the stability of a life without complications. But cracks formed subtly, like fissures in sun-baked earth. One evening, as they strolled the Playa de la Victoria, golden sand shifting underfoot, Mariah's phone buzzed incessantly. She silenced it with a flick, but Mariana caught the name, Elena. Old flame? She asked lightly, though her stomach twisted. Mariah's laugh was too sharp. Ancient history. Don't worry your pretty head. But the evasion stung, a shadow over their idol. Mariana pushed it down, chalking it up to the age gap, the power imbalance she recited like a mantra in her journal. Yet in quiet moments, doubt crept in. Was she just a youthful diversion for a professor playing at reinvention? The semester's end loomed, finals a gauntlet of essays and exams. Mariana threw herself into her work, channeling the swirl of emotions into a thesis on queer resilience in expatriate literature. Mariah's feedback came via late-night emails, laced with encouragement that read like love letters. Your voice cuts through the noise, Mariana. Don't let anyone dim it. It fueled her. But so did the ache of their unspoken boundaries, no kisses, no declarations, just the exquisite torture of proximity. Then came the betrayal, sharp as a civilian dagger. It unfolded on a humid June night, during the Feria de Abril's lingering echoes, though the fair had passed, its spirit hung in the air like confetti. Mariana had surprised Mariah at her villa, a bottle of Rioja in hand, her heart pounding with resolve. She'd rehearsed the words, I love you. Not as a student. As me. The door swung open to laughter, Mariah's, warm and unguarded, and then silence as Mariana stepped inside. Elena was there, elegant in a silk blouse, her dark hair coiled like a crown. Not a ghost, but flesh and blood, toasting with Mariah over candlelight. Mariana, Mariah stammered, color draining from her face. This isn't. But it was. Elena, the ex who hadn't quite ex-ed, back from Madrid with promises of reconciliation. We were just catching up, Mariah insisted, but her eyes darted, guilty. Mariana's world tilted, the Rioja slipping from numb fingers to shatter on terracotta tiles. Catching up. While I've been falling for you. The words escaped, raw and irreversible. Elena's brow arched, amusement flickering. Oh. The student. Dismissive, as if Mariana were a footnote. Mariah reached for her, but Mariana recoiled, the pieces of her heart scattering like the wine's crimson stain. I thought we were real, she whispered, backing toward the door. But I'm just the plot device, aren't I? The one who gets ridden out. She fled into the night, the Sierra swallowing her sobs, the bus she'd missed that first rainy evening a metaphor she'd never escape. Betrayal tasted like salt and betrayal, the romance she'd dared to dream curdling into drama's cruel twist. Dawn broke over Cadiz like a reluctant apology, painting the bay in hues of rose and regret. Mariana hadn't slept, she'd paced her tiny flat until the floorboards creaked in sympathy, replaying the villa scene in relentless loops. The shattered bottle, Elena's cool gaze, Mariah's fumbling excuses, they etched into her like acid on vellum. By morning, her phone buzzed with texts, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. But Mariana silenced it, curling into her bed with Wolfe's Mrs. Dalloway, seeking solace in Clarissa's quiet defiance. Love, the book seemed to whisper, was a river, wild, unpredictable, carving canyons from stone. She avoided campus, burying herself in the university library's shadowed alcoves, surrounded by dusty tomes on Spanish Golden Age poets. But Seville's labyrinthine streets conspired against solitude. Everywhere, echoes of their time together haunted her, the cafe where Mariah had sketched her portrait on a napkin, the bridge over the Guadalquivir where they'd lingered until the stars emerged. Mariana's friends, a ragtag crew of expats, noticed the change, the way her laughs rang hollow, her eyes shadowed like storm clouds over the Atlantic. Spill it, chica, urged Sofia, her Chilean flatmate, over churros one afternoon in the Barrio Santa Cruz. The air hummed with the sizzle of oil and the chatter of tourists. You've got that plath face, like you're about to swallow the universe whole. Mariana traced patterns in the sugar dust, the confession bubbling up like oversteeped tea. It's Professor Hale. Mariah. We. Connected. More than I should have. She recounted the rainy ride, the cliffside talks, the villa's heartbreak, her voice steady until Elena's name, when it fractured. Sophia listened, her dark eyes widening, then narrowing in solidarity. Betrayal's a bitch, but it's her loss. You're Mariana freaking Vargas, poet in the making, heart like a flamenco fire. Don't let some academic soap opera snuff you out. Sophia's words were a balm, fierce and unyielding, reminding Mariana of the resilience she'd come to Spain to claim. Yet doubt lingered, had she misread the signs? Projected her longings onto Mariah's kindness. The age gap yawned like the Strait of Gibraltar, 13 years of lived wisdom she couldn't bridge. Across town, Mariah unraveled in tandem. Elena's visit had been an ambush, texts ignored turning into an unannounced arrival, wine poured before defenses could rise. I came to close the chapter, Elena had said, her lawyer's precision slicing old wounds. They'd been engaged once, rings exchanged in a Barcelona sunset, until Elena's career demanded a life without distractions, code for Mariah's unapologetic queerness clashing with her family's expectations. The breakup had been clinical, papers signed like a contract voided. But seeing Mariana in the doorway, Rioja in hand, eyes alight with unspoken vows, it shattered Mariah's resolve. Elena left that night, dismissed with a curt, "We're done for good," but the damage echoed. Mariah wandered her villa's garden at dawn, pruning roses with furious clips, petals falling like accusations. She'd fallen too, harder than she'd admitted, Mariana's vitality a counterpoint to her own structured solitude. The betrayal wasn't intentional, it was inertia, the pull of familiarity over the terror of new beginnings. Now, guilt gnawed, she toyed with fire, knowing the power she held as professor, and burned them both. She drafted emails, deleted them, paced lecture halls empty of Mariana's raised hand. In class, she faltered mid-sentence on Orlando, Wolf's shape-shifting lover, a mirror to her cowardice. Love demands transformation, she lectured to half-empty seats, voice thick. To love is to rewrite oneself. The words mocked her, a syllabus she'd failed to follow. A week blurred into two, the summer heat thickening the air like unspoken grief. Mariana channeled it into her thesis, pages pouring out in a fever, a narrative of expatriate longing, laced with lesbian undercurrents drawn from their stolen moments. In the space between languages, she wrote, we find the words for what home cannot hold. It was catharsis, raw and redemptive, earning praise from advisors who sensed the personal vein running through it. Then came the confrontation, inevitable as a Mediterranean squall. It erupted at the university's end-of-term gala, held in the Real's Alcazar's candlelit courtyards, orange trees heavy with fruit, fountains murmuring like confidants. Mariana attended out of spite, dressed in an emerald silk slip that hugged her curves like a secret, her hair loose and defiant. She mingled with forced smiles, Sophia at her elbow, until Mariah appeared, elegant in black linen, auburn waves pinned with a silver comb, her presence pulling the room's gravity toward her. Their eyes met across the mosaic tiles, a spark igniting the tinder of unresolved ache. Mariana turned away first, but Mariah closed the distance, weaving through scholars and students like a ghost seeking atonement. Mariana, she said, voice low amid the string quartet's swell. We need to talk. Now. Here. Mariana's laugh was brittle, arms crossed like armor. Or should we wait for Elena to narrate? Mariah winced, green eyes stormy. Elena's gone. For good. That night. It was a mistake. A reflex to the past, not the present. She stepped closer, the scent of her jasmine perfume a cruel nostalgia. You weren't a diversion. You are, the plot twist I didn't know I needed. The words hung, laced with desperation, but Mariana's hurt ran deeper, a chasm widened by betrayal's blade. You let her in, Mariah. While I was outside, knocking with everything I had. Do you know what that does? It makes me question every look, every word. Was it pity? A midlife fling? Her voice rose, drawing sidelong glances, the drama unfolding like a scene from the very plays they dissected. Mariah's hand reached for hers, trembling. No. God, no. It was fear. I'm twice your age, your professor, crossing that line meant appending everything. But losing you. That's the real upheaval. Tears glistened in her eyes, unbidden, the vulnerability stripping her bare. Around them, the gala swirled on, laughter, clinking glasses, but their world contracted to this, two women on the precipice, hearts laid raw under Moorish stars. Mariana pulled back, the touch scorching. Fear's a cop-out. I bared my soul, and you hid behind yours. She turned, weaving into the crowd, leaving Mariah adrift amid the revelry. But as she reached the courtyard's edge, overlooking the moonlit gardens, doubt assailed her. Was absolution possible? Or was this the climax's cruel peak, love's crescendo fading to silence? The following days stretched taut as guitar strings. Mariah resigned her position, quietly, citing personal reasons, trading lectures for a sabbatical in Granada, where the Alhambra's whispers might mend what Seville had broken. Mariana graduated with honors, her thesis bound in leather, a testament to survival. Yet solitude amplified the void, walks along the beach now echoed with Mariah's voice, critiquing the waves' rhythm. Fate, that capricious Andalusian muse, intervened on a sweltering August eve. Mariana, restless, took the train to Tarifa, drawn by memories of that first cliffside overlook. The wind whipped fierce, kitesurf sails dotting the horizon like dreams deferred. She climbed the path alone, heart heavy, until she crested the rise and froze. Mariah stood there, back to the sea, a sketchpad in hand, drawing the very vista that had bound them. Her sundress fluttered like a flag of truce, auburn hair unbound. She turned, surprise melting into sorrowful hope. "I come here to think," she said softly. "Hoping you'd appear. Like in one of our stories." Mariana's breath caught, the wind carrying salt and second chances. "This isn't a story, Mariah. It's us, messy, real." But she didn't leave, stepping closer as the sun dipped low, gilding the waves in fire. What followed was no grand declaration, but an unraveling, truths spilled like confessions in a cathedral. Mariah admitted the fear, not just of age or roles, but of Elena's shadow, the internalized shame of a youth spent hiding. "I betrayed you because I betrayed myself first," she whispered, voice breaking. "But you made me want to try again." Mariana listened, tears tracing paths down her cheeks, mingling with sea spray. The betrayal scar remained, but forgiveness flickered, human, imperfect. "I can't promise easy," she said, her hand finding Mariah's at last, fingers intertwining like roots seeking soil. "But maybe we start over. No titles. Just Mariana and Mariah." They stood there as dusk deepened, the cliff's edge a metaphor for their fragile perch. The ocean roared approval, eternal and unjudging, as the first stars pierced the velvet sky. The months that unspooled were a tapestry of tentative stitches, love rewoven with the threads of trust and time. Mariana returned to California in September, her visa expired like a chapter's close, but the distance proved no barrier. Video calls bridged the Atlantic, Mariah's face pixelated but her smile vivid as ever. Letters followed, handwritten, inked with quotes from Dickinson and Lorca, arriving like missives from a lover in exile. "The heart wants what it wants," Mariah scrawled one night, "and mine wants the girl who missed the bus." Mariana dove into grad school at UC Berkeley, her days a blur of seminars and coffee-fueled all-nighters, but evenings belonged to them, sunset walks relayed in real time, plans whispered for a reunion. The betrayal's echo faded, not erased but integrated, a scar that mapped their humanity. "We all falter," Mariana wrote back, her script bold and looping. "It's the rising that writes the ending." Mariah, freed from academia's constraints, turned her sabbatical into reinvention, freelance editing from her Seville villa, weekends volunteering at a local LGBTQ+ center, teaching workshops on queer voices and literature to wide-eyed teens. Elena became a footnote, a lesson in boundaries rather than a haunting. For the first time, Mariah felt unburdened, her love for Mariana a light, not a weight. They met again in December, Mariana flying into Madrid under a sky heavy with promise. The airport reunion was quiet drama, no sweeping gestures, just Mariah waiting at arrivals, a single rose in hand, her green eyes brimming. They embraced amid the bustle, bodies fitting like puzzle pieces long separated, the scent of jasmine and jet fuel a heady mix. "Home," Mariana murmured into her shoulder, and Mariah's laugh bubbled free, tears salting the joy. Spain welcomed them back with open arms, winters mild as forgiveness. They traveled the Costa, from Malaga's Picasso Museum to Ronda's vertigo-inducing bridge, hands linked in unapologetic affection. In quiet moments, conflicts resurfaced, the 8-hour time difference straining calls, Mariana's ambitions pulling toward tenure tracks while Mariah craved the Sierra's slow pulse. Arguments flared, sharp words over video lag, silence as thick as fog, but they learned the dance, apologies prompt, space given, reconciliation sweeter for the effort. One spring evening, a year after the rainy bus stop, they returned to that Tarifa cliff, their origin point, now sacred ground. The Mediterranean stretched endless, gulls wheeling like witnesses to renewal. Mariana, 23 now, her features sharpened by maturity, leaned into Mariah's side, the older woman's arm a steady anchor. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, voice soft against the wind, "if we'd missed that bus forever?" Mariah turned, her fingers tracing Mariana's jaw, green eyes deep as the sea. At 36, she wore her years like fine wine, lines of laughter etching wisdom. Every detour led here. And I'd miss 1,000 more for this. She kissed her then, slow and sure, the world's roar fading to their shared breath. No betrayal's shadow, only the light of what they'd built, a love humanistic in its flaws, romantic in its persistence. Yet drama lingered, life's unscripted undercurrent. News came in July, a letter from Sacramento, Mariana's mother, reconciling with her own hidden truths, coming out after decades in the closet. "Your courage inspired me," she wrote, words trembling on the page. Mariana read it aloud to Mariah over sangria in a Cadiz taberna, tears mingling with laughter. "See? Even plot twists can heal." Mariah nodded, squeezing her hand. "That's the real story, not perfection, but growth. Us, becoming." As summer waned, decisions loomed, Mariana's fellowship offer in New York, Mariah's invitation to guest lecture at Stanford. The conflict crested gently, over paella and candlelight, a debate turning to deliberation. "We don't have to choose," Mariah proposed, her voice steady. "We build bridges. You in the States, me splitting time. It's not ideal, but it's ours." Mariana searched her face, seeing not the professor of old, but the partner who'd chosen vulnerability. "Okay," she agreed, sealing it with a kiss. Our messy ever after. The ending unfolded not in tragedy's gasp, but humanism's quiet grace. They parted at the airport with promises etched in rings, simple bands exchanged in a civil ceremony the following year, witnessed by Sophia and a cadre of friends under Andalusian oaks. Mariana thrived in academia, her first book a memoir of expatriate hearts. Mariah found her footing in hybrid worlds, their villa a beacon for visits laden with stories. Years later, on a rainy evening reminiscent of that first, they'd laugh about the bus, how one missed schedule rewrote their lives. "Drama's just life's rough draft," Mariah would say, pulling Mariana close on their San Francisco porch, the Pacific a distant echo of Spanish seas. And Mariana, ever the poet, would reply, "Then we're the revision, deeper, truer, endlessly romantic." In the end, love wasn't a climax's peak or betrayal's valley, it was the steady climb between, human hearts entwined against the odds. And in that American dream transplanted to Iberian soil, fierce, flawed, forever, they found their peace.